Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Angie.
And together we are TwinFinity. We just did this last time.
And that's the end.
That's the end.
And this is
Bye.
why we're so late doing a video, because we're not in the right space lately.
Oh, and you know, today has just been one of these days where I don't even know why we're trying to do this, because we've just been on different wavelengths. You know, if there was a question like, do you two always just like mesh and meld and you're always in the same energy and feels good? You know, it's not that this is feeling bad. It's just that there's so many different energies. It's like all the different colors in the rainbow. Sometimes the two colors that are side by side are not where you're at. So it's kind of been an interesting day. And even me I was even reading the questions beforehand, which shows that I'm out of whack because I never do that. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm glad I did that, because, okay.
Okay.
So, your turn.
The truth is we're late doing a video than we normally are, mostly because Rob's been super busy with work, and when he's not super busy with work, he's been super busy with golfing and mountains and everything else. And today we were supposed to be golfing, but then the weather was questionable, and then we canceled golf, and then the weather was great, and then we've been sad all day because we're like, we could have been outside and we're not doing anything fun. So we're wallowy today.
Yeah,
so,
we're wallowy, and I didn't have my normal breakfast on a Saturday, and
you're right. What? Yeah, you didn't.
yes.
Okay, we can talk about that some other time.
But yeah, I think both of us are just completely not on our game right at the moment.
And that's why we're going to do a video.
That's why we're going to do a video, is because we're just in the perfect headspace.
Yeah.
But it's not like we haven't had fun. And that would lead into the story of the video.
Do you want to tell our story of the
Well,
month?
okay, I'll get started with it. I had this liter and a bit plastic container that I'd washed out with water, and I wanted to knock the water out of it, so I had the lid off, and I was going bang, bang, bang on the counter downstairs in our laundry room, where we've got a sink and whatnot. So here I was banging away on this container, trying to shake most of the water out of it, and all of a sudden I hear this banging from upstairs. So
to match the banging downstairs.
So I go bang, bang, bang. She'd go bang, 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 whatever she was knocking around upstairs. So I knocked at a different bit, and she knocked at a different bit. And then I heard her laughing, and I could hear her voice, but it was coming from two different places. One was through the floor, and the other one I kind of thought was coming through the heat register. And of course it made sense all of a sudden. Yeah, she would be in our upstairs bathroom, not far away from the heat register there. And so we started a conversation through the heat registers in the different rooms that we were, using the ducting as our voice conduit. We could actually hear each other quite well when
Perfectly.
of course, both of our heat registers were down on the floor, so I could only imagine she was on her hands and knees.
I was on my hands and knees. Well, because
Hands and knees?
Nice, yes.
Yeah,
I was washing the bathroom floor.
Oh.
I was cleaning the bathroom, and then when I heard all this banging, I banged on the floor to match his, and I was right by the register, so then I yelled down at him, like, what are you doing? And then we had a whole conversation through the register.
So my heat register was also down near the floor, so here we were yelling through the heat registers at each other, having this conversation, describing what we were doing.
And saying, hi, how are you?
Hi, way up there.
This is fun. We could be talking in the same room, but no, we're talking through a register. We were having a great time doing nothing but weird things.
So, yeah, this is usually something like that happens in our day.
Because we're weird people.
Something like that just...
This is why we share our weird stories, because we have a lot of them. So, I would love it if I could move the camera, but I would probably mess it up. But it's too bad you can't see Cookie. She's, here, actually, I won't mess it up, maybe. Oh.
She's down here in
Where is
front
she?
of
There.
us. Yeah.
She's laying right at Rob's feet.
Yeah, well, okay. So I don't have a whole lot of blanket to sit on. I'm kind of
Yeah.
scrunched into my corner.
Yeah.
And the dog's got precedent over me, but that's okay.
And we're trying to do a video outside even though it is windy, so hopefully it'll behave and work okay.
And we've also think we felt the odd
got
little
ants.
raindrop. Oh yeah, I got ants.
Got ants all over your questions.
Yeah, ants are all over my questions, ants on my leg. Yeah, well.
All right, so we'll dive into questions since we're
And since we're
far away.
since we are so perfectly in line with our energies, yeah, I needed that word. I don't know what I'm in line with. I just had hamburgers for supper, so I'm perfectly in line with needing a nap.
Oh dear. Good
Okay.
luck, everybody. Okay, question number 1.
How do you get through the embarrassment of approaching your twin in 3D and getting essentially rejected? It's out of character for me to do this, and now I feel like I was a loonie or something. Well, how do you get through the embarrassment? First of all, there's only 2 people that could be embarrassed. One is the person who did the approaching, and the other person is the one that could be judging of the first one as having done something that could be embarrassed about. So a lot of times a person's embarrassment, unless they've got multiple people reminding them of something, a person's embarrassment is their own. Now, I have things in my past that occasionally flood to me, and even though they were 30 or even 40 years ago, I cringe. I go, I said that, I did that. I'm still embarrassed after all these years. So it's not like a person can run away from something that's embarrassed them. But if it's really, really bad, the embarrassment actually switches up to being trauma.
Interesting.
And that's how I take it when I cringe at something that I did so many years ago that I might be the only person on the planet that even remembers that it happened.
Or cares.
Or cares, or
Uh-huh.
yeah, either remembers or is even around to remember it.
Yes.
So yeah, how do you get through the embarrassment? Well, you know, how something turns out may or may not be truly embarrassing. A person just also might be just frustrated that they didn't get the result out of the action that happened that they were looking for. So is that embarrassment or is that frustration? I think it's embarrassment when somebody else will continue to judge. That really is the definition of embarrassment.
When somebody else, not you.
Yeah, well, you could still be judging yourself. So it doesn't necessarily have to be someone else.
Because yeah, I more take embarrassment as when you, the person who feels embarrassed is the one that judged themselves, and they continually are judging themselves harshly, and it's usually the ego side of us that does that. And it's the ego that's like, oh, you shouldn't have done that, oh, you shouldn't have said that, that critical side of us that really just has the mode of wanting to keep us safe and protected, but it can be very judgmental and very critical. So often other people can just brush off whatever you think you've done that was embarrassing, but it's us that keep lashing out at ourselves.
For weeks, months, or sometimes years.
Well, yours is a good example of years, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you get over that? Find compassion for yourself. The same compassion that you would give somebody else in whether it's the same situation or any other situation. Learn to find that for yourself, and how that works is learning to make peace with your ego. Have conversation with it. Find out why it has that judgment side of it. Where does that come from? Does it come from your childhood of others judging you, that your ego has learned that? Does it come from your ego trying to protect you, so it's like berating you so you don't do it again, and so it can keep you safe? Is it because other people have been judgmental and you've learned that through them? So find the root of it, and that's what will help you kind of heal it and get over it. And not just in something like this, but in everything. And it would also be helpful to even observe, how often do you feel embarrassed? Do you just feel embarrassed because you've reached out and got rejected? Is it the rejection that's embarrassing? Or do you get embarrassed lots of other times with lots of other things, whether you've said something or done something? So just kind of replay the whole scenario, and then examine your life for other situations and go, when have I else felt like this? How have I dealt with it in the past, and how could I deal with it differently now?
Another thing that helps with embarrassment, let's just say you think you've embarrassed yourself with somebody else, is to talk to them. And if they're like, oh yeah, that didn't go very well for you, but it's all good. We put that behind us and continue on and whatnot. If you get that resolution, that absolution from the other party or parties involved, oftentimes that allows you to also let go of it as well. Sometimes embarrassment hangs around because it hasn't had a chance to have a resolution. So sometimes when you're a little embarrassed because something happened, if you can, try to see whether or not everybody else has let it go so that you can too.
Yeah. And just to go back to the piece about rejection, can I just see the question again?
Sure.
Yeah, so you've approached your twin in 3D and got rejected. So first of all, you're saying it's out of character for you to even approach, whether it's your twin or somebody else, I don't know, I'm assuming your twin specifically, approach them in 3D. So if it's out of character, it's probably because you have a fear of rejection, which most, not even twin flames, most humans have a fear of rejection. Of course we do.
When you feel rejection, and of course it's a strong emotional trigger, when you felt rejection a few times, it usually becomes something that you try to avoid.
Yeah.
So when you do risk rejection, but still achieve rejection, it doesn't make it any easier to continue on risking rejection some more.
Right.
Because it just hurts too much.
Yeah. So it's understanding, again, where does that core wound come from of rejection? And most of us obviously have it from our childhood, around our parents or a friend or some situation. And that's where you really need to go back to, is understanding that it's not just your twin that you're feeling the embarrassment or the stress of being rejected. It goes back much deeper. So looking at that and working through that.
Also, as part of your life's journey, maybe your soul's choice to learn, it seems to be usual that people end up needing to learn how to handle some forms of rejection.
Definitely.
It's part of your journey.
Yep. We're all going to be rejected some way.
So to try some tools as opposed to just running away from it altogether. Try using some tools like, as I mentioned earlier, like even just talking to that other person or people involved. If you still can't find ways to not end up embarrassing yourself, but you also learn that other people aren't quite as critical as what you would normally believe, that's a good thing to learn. That really is. That could be part of your journey as well, to learn that lesson, if it's your lesson to learn. Sometimes always doesn't go that way.
Sometimes always.
Sometimes always?
I like it. Okay, next question.
Next question. Okay. Oh, someone said good morning to us. That was nice.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening back.
Or good morning when you actually see this. We're recording in an evening, but it probably won't go out till the morning or evening. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All I can say is that the good morning that this was written from is not the same good evening that this has been spoken from.
That is true.
Someone has made a comment here that worldwide there is 144,000 twin couples. I've seen that or heard that before.
Lots of times, yes.
Oh, is this all true? I suppose that would be subject to interpretation. I think that there's a lot of people that do actually believe that there is a spiritual group of numbers that would come up to that as being a most likely answer. And how do you know you've met your soulmate? This person says that after a 20-year relationship, they've also been apart for 5 years, but they've stayed in touch, which is not easy to handle.
Yep.
Yes. They've also commented that there is always a negative third, either person or relationship that's also involved. It's not just you two and nothing else being in the way. No, usually there's a third point of relationship.
Triangle.
The question is, I would really like to understand how I should behave. I am so exhausted with all of this.
I think the biggest key of why a person is exhausted is because when they're trying to behave in the frame that other people want instead of just being you.
Yes.
When we're ourselves, we're not exhausted because there's nothing.
It's easiest
There's no work.
It's easiest to be yourself. It's hardest to be something else.
Right. And I know we're making it sound like, sure, just be yourself. But when you've been, often those of us on this journey are people pleasers and empaths and healers. So we're used to being what everybody else wants us to be, or being what we think everybody else expects us to be. So until you know who you are, it's not easy to be yourself. But that's part of your growth, is to learn, who am I versus who is it that I think everybody else wants me to be.
Or even sometimes, who do I really want to be as opposed to the person I keep on ending up being.
Right.
Sometimes a person's not very settled down with themselves, which then causes them to want to behave differently. Behaving differently is not the same as trying to achieve genuine change. Change is becoming something different, but something different that is consistent, something different that is definable. Behaving is altering where you're at without necessarily achieving change. It's just achieving a different look. Some people would call that a mask.
Yes, good word, yes. And if you've been used to wearing a mask your whole life, and we don't of course mean a physical mask, but a mask of putting on this front of you being somebody that you're not, then you probably don't even know who you really are. And that's, again, like I said previously, that's part of the journey, is delving into and getting to know you, getting to know what your likes and dislikes are, your preferences and non-preferences, your wishes, your hopes, your dreams, rather than somebody else's. And then once you actually know who you are, it's much easier to just be you. And then, how do they put that?
Then they're not.
Then you're not behaving in a way that is out of alignment with you, and then you're not exhausted. Because when you're just you, it's not exhausting to be you when you know who you are. So hopefully that helps in understanding that piece. As far as the 144,000 twin couples, it has certainly been said that many times, and I think it's even biblical in some way. I don't know for sure. Is it true? I don't know if anybody can really say yes or no for absolute sure. Wow, that was a big bumblebee. Wow, that's fascinating.
Oh yeah, we got a big
Coming to visit.
we got
That's
a big
nice.
bumbler.
He's huge. Wow, that's exciting.
That's about the size of a unshelled peanut shell.
Yeah. Oh, look at him. Wow. Okay, we got visited by a bee. I love it.
And we're also getting visited by a helicopter.
Yeah, well. So, oh, that's interesting. There's some symbolism in all that. I don't know
hang
how
on.
relates.
There it is.
Oh, you should come to the front of the camera. You're so beautiful. Look how big you are.
Don't be making a home in there.
Yeah, don't go in there. Sorry, we're distracted. Okay.
Yeah, you're huge.
144,000.
You should take a picture of that with your phone. Sorry. We got one bee that's blowing apart 144,000 ideas of answering a question.
Oh, you can't. He doesn't stay still long enough.
Then again, there's a lot of crosswind out here.
Yeah, I can't. No. Here, you do it while I talk. Good luck.
Where are you trying to go?
I personally wouldn't worry so much about the number, because does it matter? Does it matter if it's 144,000 or 188,000 or 300,000? I do believe there is a significant number of twin flame couples. And I know 144,000 is the number that's kind of out there in the world of spirituality, but I can't say for sure it's true, because how can any of us really? We haven't gone and met everybody and counted them all, unless you have.
Nope.
Okay. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, but it's fascinating to think of.
You know, there is enough references that the theory has settled down with enough people that many people do believe that number is very close to being accurate. So I don't like to use the term very often of belief system, because people look for truth. They'd rather be looking for a truth system. I can't honestly answer that 144,000 because I don't know it to be truth, but there certainly is a lot of people that do believe, and I find some comfort in that.
Yeah. They had one other question.
How do you know you've met your soulmate?
I don't even know if I want to go into that whole long question, because that's a whole other video, and we have a video on that. We have done a very, very detailed video on the 7 stages and 50 signs of twin flame or something. I can't remember the title, but
and
we'll
also,
link it.
And yeah, also now to know that you're with your twin
Right.
flame.
Yeah.
So
we'll link that.
Us and many others have done videos on that.
There's so many videos.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And
So we won't go through all of that here, but feel free to watch those.
the real short answer is, intuitively, you just know.
Yeah. You know something is different, and nothing compares to it, and there's magic, and
Yes.
yeah. And somewhere down here, somebody asks about Kundalini, so we'll address more of that too in that question, because that's also another piece of it. Okay. Do you want me to answer the next one, since it's addressed to me?
Okay, yes, that one. We've got an Angie question.
Angie, do you have any information on red and blue flame/fire? In my dream state, whenever I'm experiencing intimacy with the person I'm connected to, I start to see red and blue energies. So what's so cool about this question, I just have to share a little story first. I don't know if any of you have ever seen where you can make your own, it's a DIY external fire thing. And we sit on our back deck often for dinner out in the summertime, and I was saying to Rob, I really want fire out here. We need fire.
And it's not we can just readily make fire.
Right.
Not allowed to do that.
No. So then literally 3 days later, I have a Reiki client over, and she's telling me she's gotten really creative. She's tapping into her creative energies, and she shows me this fire thing she wants to make. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I was just telling Rob that I want to do this. So just today we made this, and I can't show it too detailed, but You can see it's a blue, oh yeah, we can do that. It's a blue vase, and it's got blue rocks, and then of course the fire will be red.
This is literally a container of wax and charcoal and wicks and stuff. That
Not that we're advertising for these people, and there's many other brands, but this is what we've gotten to try, and as you can see, it's brand new. We haven't even lit it, and I really wanted to light it and have it in the video, but it's just so windy that we didn't know how well that would go. And if you've been hearing, we have a whole pile of wildfires, not where we live, but close to where we live. So we ought not, be having a fire with a video when we can't really be watching it.
Our smoke is going all over North America. You're welcome.
The point I wanted to make by showing that is I was very much guided. I mean, if you know me, pink is my color. Not blue, pink.
Blue's my color.
Blue is his color. But I was very much guided to make it in blue. And it's because the flame will be red and then the blue rocks. So it is very much tied to your question about the red and blue flame. And how I interpret that, if other people have other interpretations, feel free to add it in the comments. But how I interpret that is very much the masculine and feminine energies. And of course you're seeing them because you're blending. So you said, I start to see red and blue energies. That is your twin and you, but also each one represents both of you, because you both have the red energies in you, you both have the blue. One just has more dominantly one and one has more dominantly the other. But yeah, so it doesn't have to be red and blue, but two different colors, and often red and blue is it because it's the masculine and feminine representation are often represented in those two colors, or like Rob and I are always pink and blue. That's our common color.
And apparently pink isn't very close to red.
Not in my world.
Not in her world.
No. But just as a little also tie-in. Oh.
Yes, I'll start the tie-in.
Oh, okay. I was like, what are you doing?
When we were showing the top of the little fire thing, we got some blue glass beads. Just little bits, almost oval shape, and they jump out of your fingers really quickly.
And they'll reflect the fire very nicely.
Yes. So, it just so happens that in the package, there was a twin one, a little closer to the camera.
Can I hold it? No,
Yeah.
really? There was a twin one in there, so I had to take it out. It couldn't be part of our fire because I wanted to keep it separate. But I hadn't even read these questions when I was building this, and then I read these questions and I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to bring out our twin fire and stuff. So yeah, it just fits very well. Blue, and of course you're seeing red and blue energies and flames, because of course you are flames. So yeah, I think you're right on track. Your dreams are very confirming and very affirming of your connection. That's really cool. So the next question has
1, 2,
quite a bit
3. It's got a lot of stuff
to it. So we'll read it all and then sort of try and answer it.
That's if I get through reading it all.
Okay.
Sometimes I get reading and I just grind to a halt and start talking.
All right. Well, whatever. We'll go with however it works.
Okay, starting out. Have you ever encountered a false twin flame catalyst or karmic soulmate that very much seemed like a twin flame, who in fact brought one of the twins into the twin flame journey themselves, but are not their twin? I believe I have a very unique journey in the sense that I experienced the twin flame journey before it actually happened with another person. Oh, sort of like a warm-up.
A warm-up. Yeah, that's often what a false twin is.
Then my twin flame came in and I started doubting who exactly is my twin.
Yes, that's normal.
Until I went deeper into the journey and eventually found through my intuition and signs that the new person I met along the way is my twin. So very much like my journey, I had some teachers along the way that would allow me to understand that when I met my twin that there was a difference. Sometimes I'll just use the term karmics along the way, set up that contrast so that when the contrast actually happens, you recognize it.
Yes. Yes.
See, I knew we'd only get 1/3 of the way through the question before I started to comment.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very, very common that you do not meet your twin as your first either teacher or major connection or anything like that. Usually you have a little help along the way to at least give you some chance of surviving meeting your twin to begin with for at least a little while, so you have a chance to understand that relationship is special and different. So, continuing on, so the question is this really a thing and happens to other people? Have you experienced it yourselves? Yes.
Yes.
Perhaps through the stories of other twins or ourselves.
Yes.
And the more interesting part of the question, is it actually possible that the first person was my twin, but then jumped into another person's body or something similar?
Certainly possible. Never heard of it. Interesting take.
Yeah, that's a kind of a question that I would want to mull over for a couple of days. I just read it right now, so I haven't had my couple of days yet. Maybe if somebody else has a comment in regards to that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
It might be someone else who has experience with this. Yeah, they've commented that they haven't found any information online about this. They've only found one other video that speaks of this twin flame jumper thing, and I'm not sure how possible that is. I could almost say that due to, I'm missing words, collective consciousness, there it is. Due to collective consciousness, if we can think it, it exists somewhere, or else we wouldn't be able to think it because we wouldn't be able to pull it from the collective.
Right.
So, is it possible? I'm going to say yes. In fact, it is intriguing. Someone's going to have some information on this, even through their own experience. Even if they haven't been able to find anything else, they'll just say, "Yes, I'm another person who's experienced this."
Yes.
Twin flame jumper.
Interesting.
Right when I separated with my supposed false twin flame, I started, maniacally. Woo, that's quite the word. Seeing reverse numbers like 4114, 5225, etc. Well, of course, the other numbers increase in frequency, the ones like 1111 and 444, and so forth. Do you know what these particular numbers mean and why they only started appearing sometime before I met my real twin flame, and why do I keep seeing them? They are signs. Now, you could go online and various numbers have certain assumed meanings, common meanings.
All numbers have vibration, and there's different people that have tuned into those vibrations and given a meaning. So if you search spiritual meaning of whatever number, you will come up with different sites that will explain what that number vibration means.
222, 333, 444, 999 are very commonly talked about. Like 999 is completion. Yeah.
So it's interesting, though, that they were seeing the reverse numbers, like 4114, when they separated from their false twin. I almost interpret that as the universe saying, that is your false twin, that's not your real twin, and that's why they're reverse numbers. So it's not the twin, it's the reverse twin, if that makes sense.
And that the twin contact, the 11, for example, 4114, would be in the middle. It would be what you're looking for, in the middle of the former connection.
Yeah.
4mer connection. 4114.
Haha.
That's just me. That wasn't meant to be anything else.
That's good.
That's just my sense of humor leaking out.
So to go back to the beginning, the false twin flame, absolutely. I think it's quite common, whether people call it a false twin, or they call it a catalyst twin, or they call it a soulmate, or they call it a karmic partner. Yes, it's quite common for people to meet somebody and think it's their twin, and then meet somebody else who they go, oh wait, this must be my twin. So this one was somebody else. For me, again, I won't go into great detail because we've done in our story videos about this, but my karmic partner, who I was with before Rob and I came back into union, felt, even though I didn't know at that point about twin flames, had I known about twin flames, I would have absolutely labeled him something connected to a twin flame. He, even when we were first getting together, he felt like the only person that had even come close to the connection I used to have with Rob when we, had known each other.
The first time around.
The first time around, yes. Because at that point, we didn't have a second time around. So yeah, it's not uncommon at all. It's also not uncommon, and this is a bit of a touchy subject for some people, but it's not uncommon for your false twin to be a narcissist. And you feel that absolute magic pull and all the chemistry, and then they start doing their narcissistic supply crap to you, and you just think, oh, they're just triggering me because I need that triggering for healing. No, that is a narcissist. And again, we'll link it up above. We've done a video on kind of like the differences between a twin flame and a soulmate and a karmic partner, so you can learn more about that in that video. We won't go into detail here.
There's a whole lot of linking that's going to happen.
Yes.
Well,
it's just because we don't want to take up all this video time on things we've covered before and covered in more detail. We don't want to have to
redetail
because we'll miss things. But all to say, yes, it's not uncommon at all for people, including both of us, to have had a, whatever you want to call it, false twin, karmic catalyst. Yes, definitely have had that.
And as I said earlier, to me, they fall under the category of teachers.
Absolutely. Yes. If you've watched any of our other videos, we say it all the time that we wouldn't be together. We wouldn't have done the work to be able to be together had it not been for our false twins or catalyst twins or narcissists or however you want to label them. They were definitely our teachers, our healers, our helpers, our ones that helped us grow and learn enough so that we could do the work to come back together. So as much as people think they're like a terrible person, and once you find out they're not actually your twin, people want to just get them out of your life, and maybe you want to do that because they're not healthy for you, at least don't throw out the lessons and the gifts that they gave you. I've said so many times that I'm so grateful to my past relationship, because I grew so much, I worked so hard, I healed so much in that relationship.
One of my favorite sayings that I ever heard was, people come into your life for either a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And for the people that have come into your life for a reason, respect the reason.
Definitely.
Yes, respect.
Yep.
Don't. You might have to reject the person because it's unhealthy, but still keep the reason.
Yeah.
Understand the reason. Or if you need to, you might have to take some time to remember the reason and figure out the reason, because it might take a little bit more time and other teachings from other people to make that reason make sense.
Yeah. So I think we've answered all of those questions.
Yes.
Well done.
We didn't spend a lot of time talking about the numbers, but when you start seeing repetitive things, and numbers tend to be those things. Maybe it's even stuff on billboards, like you've mentioned before.
Yeah.
At other times. When you start seeing things in repetition, Uh, Typically, pessimistic people see that as warnings. Optimistic people see that as affirmation.
Hmm.
Affirmation that things are going in a direction that is worthwhile.
Yep. Or just any sort of message. All right, this next one's a bit tough.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
yeah, okay, I hadn't read it. Of course. My twin flame passed away 5 years ago. Whew.
Yeah, that's tough.
We only had 5 years together, and I'm still grieving. I look forward to nighttime where I can go to sleep for a while and feel like I can subconsciously feel him. I had hoped by now I could move on, but I feel closer to him than ever. Is this normal? I feel such loss.
Yes, absolutely normal.
Framing loss. Some people would love to have that connection, which I would almost call the opposite of a loss, which is a found. You've got a connection that you still have even though he's gone.
Or gone from this realm.
Gone from this realm. You feel such a loss in the 3D, but you have such a found connection in the 5D. Which means your grieving is in the 3D. Your connection and happiness for that existence is in the 5D. Yes, it's tough to deal with the 3D because most people feel the 3 dimension most of the time because you're in it. Yeah.
But I would say don't be afraid to bring in the 5D in your daily life, not just at nighttime. And first of all, I don't want to make light of this and make it seem like, well, just do this and, it's all easy. First of all, I have so much compassion. I can't even imagine. One of our neighbors just passed very suddenly a couple, 2 months ago now?
Maybe about 2 months, yeah.
And ever since then, almost every single day, I think of, how would I be if that was my situation? If Rob just literally just one day here and the next day gone. How would I feel? So I have so much compassion because I've been really in that sort of place lately. And I can't even imagine the grief that you would go through. And some people might say, well, it's been 5 years and get over it and move on. And okay, he died, but get on with your life. I can understand that 5 years or even a lifetime is not going to be enough to stop grieving and just move on. This is a unique and special connection, which though is where I want to bring it, is, not to dishonor the grieving and the loss, but also to bring in that you can still have that connection in your day-to-day 3D life. Because this connection definitely surpasses death or, surpasses this realm. It's a soul connection. And even though your twin is now crossed over to a soul form and not in a physical form, you can still have a connection during the day. And not only can you have a connection, you can have a very strong connection, probably even stronger than when he was here. Because he's in soul form, he has a much higher vibration and is able to connect with you on a deeper soul level than probably when he was in the physical. So I would just invite you, if you're ready or when you're ready, to start tapping into that more and, ask him to be with you during the day. And you'll be surprised you can even feel him. You can probably even hear him. Your telepathy might get very, very strong, very powerful. He might even have the ability to move things physically in the house. I'm a medium. I don't share this much with people, but when I do work with Reiki clients, I am able to connect with their deceased loved ones. And some spirits, as they advance on the other side, because we're still growing after we cross over. We don't just die and that's it, right? We're always learning, growing, and advancing. And one of the spirits that I worked with was so advanced that he was able to move things and touch things and it was his sister that had come to see me, and she was able to feel his touch, and you know, he would flick her hair and she could feel it. So if you're not already experiencing that, I would just invite you to ask your twin to connect with you more during the day, so that you're not just desperately waiting for nighttime to have that connection at night, and you can have it all the time and enjoy it throughout the day. Even before Rob and I were together physically in union, I was experiencing him. I went to the mountains once, and I literally felt him like he was there. I could feel his arms around me, and it just felt like he was physically right there. And as twins, we have that special bond, bond and abilities. So if you haven't already, I would just suggest practicing and tapping into those, and that might help your grief a little more. Anything else to add after I
No. Well,
said all that blah blah blah?
I do have a comment. I want to read one little bit of that question over again and then expand on it. That little bit is, I had hoped by now I could move on, but I feel closer to him than ever. This is difficult to describe, but the closeness and the connection for the person who has written this question has, like a blanket, has now covered over their existence to the point that they don't have an existence outside of what they feel and outside of that closeness. And moving on is a tough word for me, because I really do. I hate to leave lessons behind. It's not a case of moving on from the connection or moving on from the feelings of the relationship. That would be almost like leaving them behind. I'd like to frame it differently, where you keep it with you, but then you start to grow beyond the cloak of the connection that you had with your former twin flame who has passed on. So it's almost like you put a lid on a frying pan, but now the frying pan grows beyond the size of the lid, and you now have an existence that still has all the lessons and the feelings central in your life, but you have things around that that allow you to grow as opposed to moving on from. As opposed to leaving your lesson, you become something bigger than what your lesson can cover over. Yeah, it was difficult for me to describe that. But yeah, growing bigger than what has now consumed most of your existence. So yeah, it's about growth, not necessarily moving beyond or moving on from. And from that point of view, it allows you to keep all of your feelings and even your newly acquired or strengthened closenesses without it having all consume you. Have bits and pieces of you that are outside of that function on their own, and that'll allow you to carry it with you but not consume you.
Yeah. Hopefully that's helpful.
Some things are so hard to describe.
Yes.
Especially when it's a one-way conversation and the other person can't bounce ideas off of you at the same time.
And go, yeah, I get it, or no, I don't, or oh yeah, I see this piece.
Yeah, it's sometimes tough with questions to have a one-way conversation.
Yeah. All right, one more question?
One more question? Okay.
At least one more, hopefully one more.
Well, probably one more is gonna fill up our video time.
Yeah.
But okay. Many of the twin flame groups or people that say they are on a twin flame journey talk about the Kundalini awakening. Yeah, we come across that every so often. They describe it as something like lightning or something similar going through your body or spine. Do you really think that it is really that intense? Some say that unless you experience it, you're not on a TF journey. I don't believe it. What do you two think?
Can I go first, or do you have thoughts that you want to dive in with?
No, I think you can go first.
Okay. First of all, I would be very wary of anybody that says the twin flame journey looks like this. It's one thing and one thing only, and if you don't have that, you're not a twin flame. Because yes, we all have a similar experience because we have a similar connection, but it can present itself in many different ways. So, I know there's teachers that say, well, unless you do this, or unless you have that, or unless he says this, or unless, you're not a real twin flame, or you're not going to come into union, or whatever. This is your journey, not somebody else's. So I just wanted to preface this with that. So in regards to Kundalini awakening, it can happen different ways. Often it's described as like an energy going up from the root chakra, up the spine, and kind of back down. Did I experience that? No. Did you experience that?
No.
No. But here we are.
There is so many other ways to define the journey, and really the definition is boundless.
And I do believe most, maybe all, twin flames experience something of a Kundalini awakening, but does it have to look one way? No. We could describe ours.
We call it magic.
Yes, that's what I call it. It's the magic. Like we've shared in our story videos, and I don't even know which one. It would be one of the first.
Which one of the minis?
4 probably.
Yes.
But the very first day we met in person, we're driving home, and if you've heard us talk about the reverse sunset, we won't go into all that. But Rob had asked if he could, as a friend, hold my hand. And the minute our hands touched,
yeah,
it was literally like God was in the truck with us. It was just this energy, this light, this love.
It was almost electric. You could almost call it a Kundalini experience.
I was just gonna say that could have been
maybe
our Kundalini experience. But was it? Do we remember it being energy going up and down our spine? I don't know.
No.
I was busy experiencing magic. And I've also, shortly after that, just days after knowing Rob, I started seeing his aura. I didn't even know what the word aura was, honestly. I was only 23, but still, I wasn't spiritually awake at all. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing his aura. That is also part of Kundalini awakening. Your energy is awakening. You're awakening to your soul self. Is it going to happen the same for everybody? Absolutely not. So don't worry about, well, mine's not happening the way everybody says it should, so I must not be a twin flame. No.
We wouldn't all be here to have the same experience, because I think that spirit would really be getting bored of hearing the same thing from everybody. So I really honestly believe that every one of us has got something different to send back to spirit as a lesson or a learning. So therefore, to expect that a group of souls, or all of us souls, or any specific type of soul has to have a certain parameter, no. But for those people that have had Kundalini experiences, congratulations. I'll try not to be jealous, but
Well,
at the same time,
just in a different way.
but in
Hi, you coming to visit?
in all of our, or in all of
Here, come
my
say hi.
experiences, I'm quite happy with the experiences that I've had.
Yeah,
If I don't
totally.
happen to have one that meets that definition, I'm still good with who I am and who I believe I am, and with my journey.
And we've had people share all sorts of different pieces of magic that they've had. One twin flame said when her and her twin flame first connected, like just touched hands, she literally, or they both literally felt like they were floating off of the floor. And other people have had different experiences. Other people have had absolutely spiritual, powerful, sacred things happen to them. So there's no one thing, there's no one way to describe it. Kundalini energy can pour through us all differently. So yeah, don't worry. I know a lot of people really stress about that, and they're like, oh my God, maybe I'm not a twin flame because I haven't had this, and people say I have to have this. No, this is a soul connection, and there are no rules in a soul connection. In fact, if anything, soul connections defy the rules. They defy the 3D logic and, you know, the ways of the earth and the human's perception of how things have to be and should be.
But at the same time, if someone was to come up to me and insisted that I had to have experience XYZ, or else I wasn't a real twin flame, I wouldn't be harsh on them at all, because what they perceive to have learned and what their learnings are is their journey.
Right.
And I respect other people's journeys for the thought that it is their journey to have. So, yeah, I wouldn't say that it was absolutely not a requirement, but I actually believe it is not a requirement. Nothing is a requirement.
The only reason I'm so adamant on that is because I know a lot of twin flame, and maybe I shouldn't even say a lot. There are some twin flame coaches or healers that, you know, really make people doubt their journey instead of going deeper into their journey. They put these rules and restrictions on and say, well, unless you communicate with your twin this way, and unless he's begging to see you, or unless this happens, or unless that happens, you're never going to come into union. And I just think that's so unfair of anybody to tell anybody how their journey should look, because nobody's journey is anybody's journey but yours. Like, we're here to just share our stories and our experiences, but that doesn't mean we got all the answers, because we only have the answers of our journey and, you know, people that we've communicated with.
No, there's a lot of similarities in journeys. For example,
Right.
Many times we've had questions that are very similar, so these people are having similar
Absolutely.
journeys, and many times we have slightly different takes on the answers depending upon how the question's been asked. So we can apply what we've learned to other people's journeys, and other people's journeys can be described in questions that are similar. So there is a lot of things that are in common, and the more that I've looked at questions and have talked to people and come back to my own conclusions, it seems to me that there is just so much now that is very definitely a part of the journey, because
Right.
if you allow it to be part of the journey, pretty much anything could be interpreted as being part of a twin flame journey. There's just so many different things that are on the go
Yep.
that it's very hard to exclude anything,
Right.
which means you pretty much have to include everything.
So confusing.
So confusing, but almost so simple.
On a sort of different question, remember the person that was asking about the red and blue flames? As we were talking, I just looked down, and I have a red blanket on, and we're sitting on a blue blanket. And so there's like red and blue right here. And it just,
And by the way,
I think it ties in so well.
I think I've seen the red blanket before, but I don't think I normally see this red blanket.
No, this is part of our travel pack when we used to do videos in the mountains,
No.
and you'd carry all this stuff and
Oh yeah,
blankets and
my
journals
poor
and
backpack.
computer.
Yeah. Oh right, and then the stuff you're supposed to carry in your backpack.
Right, like water and food and clothing,
Yeah,
because we used to do a bunch of videos in the winter time.
that too. Spare clothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, get all sweaty, get into some place, and have to change into something dry so you didn't shiver to death while you were trying to do a video.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just amused by this red and blue blanket.
Red and blue. Yes.
So there are of course more questions, but that is all the time we'll dedicate for tonight, so that you don't have this big long video to watch. Thank you as always for your great questions, and we'll certainly be back to answer more,
Yes.
and hopefully not longer. Summertime's really hard, especially for Rob. He's either working or golfing or biking or
climbing a
hiking
mountain.
or climbing a mountain.
Oh. And then a week goes by and I'm thinking, wow, I needed to sleep more. And then eventually I think, yes, I needed to sleep more. And somewhere along the line I should have done a video. Oh no, I've missed a month. It's my journey.
Yeah. And last weekend when we were out in the mountains, we talked about we actually brought all of our stuff to do a video, but I was just not. My energy was so low. We only did a 6-kilometer hike and I was just like, oh, I'm done. I can't do anymore. I was just exhausted. So it was just not a video day. So that's summer.
Yes, yes, and that's also the joy of energy. Sometimes when you want to have energy, you don't. Like this other person said along the way, I'm so exhausted. Sometimes you can get exhausted mentally, sometimes emotionally, sometimes physically, sometimes spiritually.
That's right.
Many different types of exhaustion, and that just means that sometimes days turn into weeks, turns into a month or so before you finally put your energy together and for us, do a video.
Even when your energies aren't really together, and we did okay.
We did.
Good job.
Congratulations to us. I can't believe we actually had such a great video with the energies that we had. We were just stumbling through our day. 1 hour she'd be happy and I'd be all moping, and then all of a sudden she'd be all excited about something. She'd see the flowers out front had opened up in our flower bed, all excited, and I'd be sitting at my desk moping because we didn't go golfing when we could have. So we were just never today, other than pretty much during this video, at the same place at the same time.
No.
It was yeah.
It's been a day.
I was really scared about starting the video. I didn't know where we were going to end up.
But we made it.
Yeah.
Well done. Good
Yay.
job. All right, we love you guys. Thanks for your questions again, and we'll be back hopefully in another month or
Less.
around there, or less. Yeah.
Maybe no promises.
I was just gonna say, careful what you promise.
Yeah. I've done that before. It really set us up for a struggle.
Yeah.
All right. We'll catch you later.
Bye, and happy
Bye.
11 day.
Yes, that
Yes.
too.
Bye. Can't reach that far.